How fortunate for Zoombinis that you are their guide!
Hello and welcome to my first time contribution to Edutainment Month. Inspired by lazy game reviews, I shall cover 2 edutainment games in the month of April. Let's begin with a game from my childhood. When I was in elementary school, we would have certain days where we would go to the school library and use the computer lab. Besides class projects, we would also play different educational games. One of the class favorites, or at least mine was, Logical Journey of the Zoombinis. Mainly because it wasn't overtly trying to teach you math or typing skills. It was teaching how to logically deduce the problems presented with varying levels of difficulty. Logical Journey of the Zoombinis version 1.1 was released in 1996 for the Mac and PC, developed and published by Broderbund software. I'll be covering the PC version because that's what my friend grew up with before passing it on to me. In the beginning, Zoombinis were prosperous creatures, making goods for their neighbors, until one day they were taken advantage of and enslaved by the bloats. Escaping their homeland, they must now find a suitable place to call their own. It is up to you to guide 16 Zoombinis at a time across a land covered in 12 different puzzles, until you establish Zoombiniville and repeat the process over and over again until all 625 Zoombinis are safe and sound in their new home. While this number seems ridiculously high, it must be remembered that because this is an education game meant to be played over and over again, they want you to feel like you've made a huge goal when you eventually save them all. Before the journey can begin, you must make your party of 16 Zoombinis. You'll have the choice of hair, eyes, noses, and feet. Or you can hit the randomize button to do the work for you. You can make doubles of a certain type, but no more than 2. For a bit of the footage, you will see that I will be cheating for the most part, making the Zoombinis have as little differences as possible. The differences between the Zoombinis will become important in a majority of the puzzles presented. While I might be cheating for the most part, this doesn't make all the puzzles easier on the higher difficulties. There are 4 difficulties: not so easy, oh so hard, and very, very hard. These will give variations to how the puzzles work. Playing on the regular journey, you will start all the levels on not so easy, but as you complete the different legs of the journey with 16 Zoombinis, you will raise the difficulty of those zones, with no way to reverse the difficulty. Because this game isn't short, there is a save system that can be used by hitting the shortcut keys to save or load your game anytime. You can also save your game when you are on the main map menu. In order to get a better understanding of how the game is set up, I will briefly go over each of the levels in each zone, or as the game likes to call them, legs. Leg 1 is the big, the bad, and the hungry. The first level of this leg is the allergic cliffs, in which there are 2 bridges suspended over 2 rock faces. These rock faces are allergic to Zoombinis with certain body features. When you place a Zoombini on a bridge, one of 2 things will happen. 1, it will safely cross to the other side, or 2, it will be knocked back, taking a peg out from the 6 pegs holding the bridges up. Mess up too many times, and the bridge will fall, and you will continue on with the Zoombinis that have crossed, leaving the others behind. Or you can restart. On the first difficulty, you will have to determine one feature that a rock face will be allergic to. And as you raise the difficulty, they will be allergic to more types of features. The cliffs will pose a certain challenge on higher difficulties, but as long as you figure out which features they're allergic to quick, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. In the right corner, it is hard not to notice 3 buttons. The question mark will help you get an idea of how the puzzle works and what needs to be done to finish it. The map will take you to an overview of the entire map and allow you to choose camps to travel to or change the game mode to practice mode. In practice mode, you will have a chance to play any level you want on whatever difficulty you want. This will give you a chance to practice a level you suck at or try a difficulty you haven't played yet. You won't be able to choose your Zoombinis beforehand though. They will be chosen for you. And the final button, the green arrow, is how you proceed on to the next puzzle. You can hit the button almost any time after you have a certain number of Zoombinis that can proceed. But of course you will be leaving those who are not ready behind. So don't hit it until you're absolutely sure you want to move on with or without all your Zoombinis. Level 2 is Stone Cold Caves. You will have 4 caves guarded by 4 rock guardians. There are 2 paths on the right and 2 on the left. Whatever path you choose, you will have to be approved by 2 guardians before you can enter a cave. If a guardian does not like a Zoombini, it will knock it all the way back down the path. If the left bottom guardian likes a Zoombini, but the top middle doesn't, try the left side again, but choose the low route. It is very much like the first level, but with more choices. To fail, you will have to mess up a lot to cause a rock slide, but in my recent playthroughs, I've always got through no problem. On the higher difficulties, the Guardians will be looking at more features to discriminate your Zoombinis. These caves are fairly easy to figure out, and as said before, if you don't screw up too many times, you should be able to go through no problem. On the last level of the first leg, Pizza Pass, you must make a pizza for the troll or trolls. This is a trial and error based puzzle where you must determine what toppings the troll likes and hates to make the perfect pizza. If the troll likes a topping but wants more toppings, the pizza will be thrown on the rock behind it. If the pizza topping is not liked at all, it will be thrown into the pit in front of the troll. And if you get the pizza right, the troll will be satisfied and allow you on your way. If you fail 6 times to get the pizza right, the Zoombini carrying the pizza will be knocked back to the beginning of the leg. Then another Zoombini will take its place to get hit if it fails to deliver the correct pizza. Before the 6th fail, the troll will give the first Zoombini a warning hit, to let you know if you fail again, that Zoombini will be gone. On the first difficulty, you'll only have to satisfy 1 troll with 5 toppings. On the second difficulty, there will be 2 trolls with 4 toppings and ice cream with 2 toppings. On the third difficulty, a 3rd troll is added. All 5 toppings are back, and no troll likes the same topping as another. On the final difficulty, 4 pizzas are already in the pit, and there are now 3 ice cream toppings. These trolls can make or break your group on higher difficulties, due to the limited tries that you're allowed and how many things you have to take into account for each troll. It is a memorable puzzle, due to the voice acting and the personalities of the trolls.
Fleens? You're not fleens!
Huh. Whatever you are, make me a pizza!
As well as the fact it is at the beginning portion of the game. Once you complete the first leg, you will arrive at Shelter Rock, the first campsite that will give you the opportunity to do 2 things. 1, if you have all 16 Zoombinis, you can go on to the next leg of the journey, either taking the top route, leg A, or bottom route, leg B. Or 2, if you don't have 16 Zoombinis or you want to start at a different campsite, you can store the ones that you have in the slots on the rock and return to the beginning to try again. Then if you come up short again, you can always grab Zoombinis to make a full party. The next leg of the journey is a split between the top and bottom path. Let's start with the top path, named Who's Bayou. This path of the 2 is my least favorite of the paths due to the overall length. The first puzzle is Captain Cajun's ferry boat, where you must find the right seating arrangement before Captain Cajun will push off. Captain Cajun is very particular about the placement of your Zoombinis. He will want your Zoombinis to have things in common to sit next to each other. At first, the arrangement will only have to worry about, at most, 2 Zoombinis in common sitting next to each other. As the difficulty raises, the seats on the boat change, making it so more Zoombinis will have to be sitting closer to each other. Figuring out this puzzle might take some time if you have a varied group of Zoombinis, but if you do it cheap like me, it speeds up the process. Once the ferryman takes you across part of the bayou, you will come across titanic tattooed toads. You must ride these toads across the lily pads to the other side, but you must choose the right path and the right toad. This can take a while due to the waiting that is involved. There are 3 things to look for: symbols, colors, and lily pad shapes. Then check with your eyes, finger, cursor, or whatever to see if the path goes all the way to the other side. If you choose poorly, the toad will be hopping indefinitely on the lily pads, which sucks for several reasons. Each toad can be used 2 times to take your Zoombinis across, but if you mess up, there goes a Zoombini and another chance to cross with that toad. On the later difficulties, a fairy appears and swaps lily pads with its wand. You will then be able to use the wand a few times before it stops working. Because the main difficulty is how long it takes to identify paths and what needs to be done to make it work, I never had an issue with the wand. In the last 2 difficulties, crabs will obstruct paths and even misdirect them. This puzzle is why I don't like taking the top path. It takes so long for the animations, figuring out the correct path, and doing it for all 16 Zoombinis. Thankfully though, the toads can be used twice. The last puzzle on this leg is called Stone Rise. You must place Zoombinis on stones on either side of a picture, indicating what the Zoombinis must have in common. This is rather easy with variation of the stone arrangements on later levels. This puzzle is fairly quick to figure out due to how often this type of puzzle is used within the game. Going back to the beginning of Leg 2, we shall look at Path B, the Deep Dark Forest. As the Zoombinis enter the Deep Dark Forest, they come across fleens, a type of creature quite like the Zoombinis but meaner and greener. They block the Zoombinis' path and will chase those Zoombinis with features equivalent to their own up a tree. You will have 6 chances to get the fleens off the branch with the bees. Once all 3 fleeings are off, the bees will go after the whole group, allowing you to continue. If you don't get rid of the fleeings within 6 tries, one of the Zoombinis will be knocked off the branch and sent running from a fleeing. I like this path for how quick it is in comparison to the top, but the fleeings can mess up your Zoombini count right away if you don't get what features go with what. But if you get by with all the Zoombinis, get ready to breeze through this leg of the journey. As the Zoombinis get deeper into the forest, it starts to get darker and the Zoombinis will need to find shelter. That's when they come across Hotel Dementia. The Zoombinis must find a room before the clock hits midnight and the doors close. In this puzzle, you must sort the Zoombinis by characteristics. If you put a Zoombini in the wrong room, the platform will retract and drop the Zoombini, and time is taken off the clock. As the difficulty raises, more rooms are added, the clock disappears, and some doors will be boarded. This level was always meh to me. It wasn't anything interesting. Choose the right room before the time runs out. Woo, fun! I am always glad when this level is over. Continuing on the journey, the Zoombinis come across Mudball Wall, a wall with a machine in front of it, made for one purpose, flinging its passengers to the top of the wall, once the targets are hit by the mud balls produced by that machine. You must choose the color and the shape to go on a mud ball. This will correlate to a row and a column, and the goal is to hit the dots. The more dots on a square, the more Zoombinis flung upon the wall. But you have a limited amount of mud, so you have enough to experiment with. But don't go crazy or else Zoombinis will be left behind. When the difficulty raises, colors and shapes will start to shift instead of going by straight column. And then you will also have to account for colors inside the shape. This level is my favorite due to how easy it is, the bright colors used, and how to deduce where the mud should go. Finally, out of the forest, or the marsh, depending on which route you took, the Zoombinis make it to their last leg of the journey, the Mountains of Despair. But before that, there is a camp called the Shade Tree. It works like Shelter Rock, and is the last camp before reaching the end. Before entering the mountains, the Zoombinis become blocked in the lion's lair. They must place themselves on the paths according to the pictures on the wall, placing all the Zoombinis with the first characteristics first, then once they are all placed, go on to the next, continuing until all are placed, opening the path deeper into the mountains. When a Zoombini is placed on the wrong spot, it will be transported to the correct position, and then a peg to the gate is removed. If all the pegs are removed, the gate closes, leaving those left behind it. There is no penalty, however, if you accidentally drop a Zoombini down the abyss. They will be transported back to the gate. As the difficulty raises, there are less characteristics shown upon the wall, until showing none at all. This puzzle is fairly easy due to how uncomplicated it is, especially when you cheat, like I sometimes do. Once the lion lets the Zoombinis pass, they come across a mirror machine, where the Zoombinis must be placed on minecarts and must be the mirror image of the chosen slide on the other side. If you choose correctly, the mirror crystal will be raised and let the Zoombinis jump the gap. If you choose poorly, then the crystal stays down and the Zoombini is sent down the shaft back to the last campsite. As the difficulty raises, unchangeable slides are placed in front of both the Zoombini and the slide that you can choose. These slides will have features that cover over the Zoombini and the chosen slide. Then on the highest difficulty, you will have to deal with more slides, and the Zoombinis go in order that they were in on the last level. This level is not particularly fun due to how long it takes to go through all 16 Zoombinis. The time figuring out the right mirror images, waiting through the animations of the minecart, and having to hit the switch again to reset the mirror. It makes me an impatient person. Riding the minecarts through the cave, the Zoombinis come across Bubble Wonder Abyss, the last puzzle before the Zoombinis make it to their new home. They must be placed on an arrow to be put in a bubble that will travel across the abyss, but these bubbles have a set path they have to travel on. Being directed by the arrows, they can have 2 possibilities happen to them. Either they can make it to the other side, or they will be sent down a vortex. You must make sure to keep an eye out for arrows with characteristics, and where they will lead your Zoombinis. This is why it's important to choose your starting arrow carefully by looking at the path beforehand, like the Titanic tattooed toad level. As the difficulty changes, more variations begin to occur. Arrows change the direction with each Zoombini that passes it, colored switches that might block off a path if you don't plan properly, and panels that lock bubbles in place until another switch is hit to release it. This is another level that takes time to complete due to the necessity to pre-plan your moves. Wait until the right moment to make another bubble so that 2 bubbles don't collide, and the speed of the bubbles floating. Once the Zoombinis make it out of the mountains, they find a peaceful land where they can establish their new home, Zoombiniville. The more Zoombinis make it to this place, the more buildings are built. Each time a player makes it across a leg of a journey on a certain difficulty with 16 Zoombinis, a special building is constructed. In total, there are 16 buildings that can be constructed. Because this game is marketed toward a younger audience, the visuals seem like they wouldn't be out of place in a children's book. The muted colors for the backgrounds help to make the characters and objects pop out, and I absolutely love the water at the beginning and at Captain Cajun's ferry boat. The animations are also well done, being smooth and lending personality to the characters. But I wish the animations could be skipped sometimes due to having to wait for some animations to end before continuing on. The audio is pretty well done with nice sound effects, nice music when it does pop up, and surprisingly good voice acting, even if the narrator does get a bit carried away.
Hip hip Zombini! Hip hip Zombini!
The only annoying part of the audio comes from the Zoombinis making random noises as you try to complete puzzles. Logical Journey of the Zoombinis still holds up many years after I first played it. The variety of puzzles, the art style, and the voice acting still works. There are annoying things like how much waiting and time is involved for some puzzles, and the almost constant noises the Zoombinis make. But overall, the good outweighs the bad, and there are more puzzles I like than dislike. One thing I did realize while getting ready for this review was that games like this aren't meant to be played for hours on end, days in a row. They are meant to be played for short periods of time with hope that you will keep coming back and eventually save all the Zoombinis. Because this is a logic-based game, I would recommend this to anyone that can handle the puzzles. The difficulties vary enough so that not so easy is quite different from very, very hard, meaning it would offer challenge to those in elementary school to even those who have passed college. And on higher difficulties, I would recommend writing on a piece of paper to figure out some of the puzzles. Logical Journey of the Zoombinis can be found in 3 versions. 1.0 for Europeans has a few differences from version 1.1 released the same year. 1.1 is for Windows 95, 98, and Macintoshes around 1996. Version 2.0 is for every Windows operating system 95 and up, with some exceptions, and Macintosh OS 8.6 and later through Mac OS X Tiger. All versions of the game go for under $10 online and doesn't seem too hard to find. The recorded footage used is running on Microsoft Virtual PC using Windows 98. Thanks for watching. Any feedback on this video or any of my other videos would be appreciated. If you want to get in contact with me, message me on YouTube or Twitter. And if you want to see any of my previous work or my last reviews, click the links provided.